Thank you for joining me for this conversation that we're going to have today discussing Wadjet. The Wadjet system of yoga is something that I created as an initiate of Wadjet for servants. And the science of this system is created to recondition us, to recreate our beings into warriors, into the strength that we need in order to manifest our power given the conditions, the current circumstances of Earth that we live in, and also to just have an awareness of our own energy force, which is a divine energy. And by reconnecting to this divine energy, we reconnect ourselves directly to the divine. Because a lot of us karmically and through different incarnation cycles, because of what's happened to us before this, have really forgotten who we are and what our real connection to divinity is. And a lot of times we have these words and phrases and catchphrases now that give lip service to our recognition of our own divinity, but we don't live as though we understand that we are fully connected to divine power, because if we really understood that, then we would be treating ourselves differently, we would be treating our organs differently, we would be treating our whole temple differently, and we would also be manifesting a different reality to the people around us and into our world of what is of benefit to us. And what benefits us is by serving the community and then receiving the energy that they give off in return. So the whole entire system of Wadjet Yoga has been designed with all of those facets in mind, all of those facets of divinity. We want to go deeper than giving lip service to divinity. And one of the issues, or one of the reasons I would say that we've gotten to that state is because we've kind of been reconditioned into believing that all of our understanding and our experiential, our knowledge of the world should be, rather than being experiential, should be learned from others. And there is no real understanding of divinity, of existence, of anything secondhand. There's no such thing as true secondhand knowledge. You can't know something from somebody else. You have to have a direct personal, experiential awareness of something in order to say that you know it. So you have that direct experiential awareness, leave it. So as a system, again, Wadjet is designed in order for us to take the information that we get from it and to physically materialize the knowledge, create an experiential awareness of it in our being. Wadjet is the book that I've written, Wadjet Yoga. So the first book in this series is Understanding Serpent Power. And Understanding Serpent Power is about developing an experiential awareness of it by doing the yoga practice. So a lot of us want to reconnect with our Africanness, want to reconnect with our culture, and even many people have gone to the point where they set up shrines in their homes, and this is beautiful and this is necessary because we need to invite the deities who are part of us and who we live through and live for and they live for us. We need to invite them back into this realm. We need to invite them into this space because because of these false religions, we've had them shut away from us for too long. So we're just now opening little doors, little portals where they're able to come back into our reality here and to connect with us and join with us and to bring their power so that we can manifest it here into our human reality. But to stop at just shrine work still generally hasn't shown to be enough, because a lot of people will light up a shrine or leave it sitting in the corner gathering dust for 6 days a week, and then one day light it up, remember that it's there, put some incense, put some candles, put some food in front of it, and then for another day or 2 days or 7 days or 30 days, they just look at it in the corner and don't really connect with it. And so what we need to do through yoga, by having a regular yoga practice, yoga is actually restructuring us to live our divinity. So we need to invite our ancestors and invite our deities into our home and into our space, but we also need to invite them into our temple, into our very own physical temple, so that we walk around as a living awareness of their existence, of them being here with us. So we don't they're not just over there, because we're still having things too far outside of ourselves, and everything is still over there. And we've been conditioned that everything should be learned out of books, and that everything that will save us is over there, we have to go get it, or we have to wait for it to come get us. And there is no separation. We are that. We need to begin to live that awareness again. So these things that I'm going to talk about today are all in the first book, in my first volume of Wadjet Yoga, Understanding Serpent Power. And this is the whole second chapter, which is based on the science of Wadjet. And so that's what I'm talking about today, just for anybody else who's just tuning in with us. So the history of Wadjet and the history of snake, the cult of snake worship in general, is very ancient. So at the oldest records that they've found so far, the oldest area where they've been able to do archaeological digs, they've discovered that the worship of the black snake goddess is over 70,000 years old. So the worship of Wadjet in ancient Kemet actually was already a fully established religion at the time when they first are aware of anything. All the oldest carbon dating, all the oldest records of Kemet existing there already had full, solid, and structured worship of Wadjet. And so if we go north, which is 2 Africans north, is what we now call South Africa. If we move upwards, up the continent in the geology of our own awareness, or geography rather, of our own awareness, we see that in the actual cult began in Botswana, and excuse me for calling it cult, I call it cult without the negative connotation that it has. Cult just means, the word cult means culture. It's gotten a real negative connotation based on the followers and the people who are worshiping false idols today, but originally a cult is just a culture, and so the specific culture of the goddess worship of the black snake started in Botswana. So that's in 70,000 years ago. So they have caves where they have traces of initiation practices, initiation rites that were going on there. And so we see that this is as old as our very humanity itself. As long as we've been here, we have been connected to this divinity. So she has a very special power here. And that's because the Wadjet power is intrinsic to our very nature. The Wadjet power, which people call Kundalini now, is the life force. Without having her energy, we literally wouldn't be humans. We wouldn't be what we are. I don't know what other being that we would be, but we would not be divinely connected humans. That power has been given to us through the energy of Wadjet. So that's what's shown by that. Now, the expressions of Wadjet through the different stories of the ancients, and ancient Kemet, where the worship of Wadjet is actually recorded in words for us to kind of get an exact understanding rather than having to look at pottery and traces of writings on the walls and things like that. The expressions of her through our stories explain about her going out. Like, for example, there's a story that speaks about Wadjet going out at the beginning of creation for Shu and Tefnut, and this is about going out and searching for air and for moisture. So while matter was coming into being, Wadjet was already there, and it was her job to go search them. Ra sent her out to search for air and moisture. And it's interesting because when we look at the planet Earth, just from a cosmological perspective, when we look at Earth, there are electromagnetic waves that come out from the sun that go around the Earth. And when we look at the images of that, the way it goes around the Earth, there's actually a sphere around the Earth where the radiation goes over the Earth, is around it. And so it almost looks like a wave, like if you see a car with the wind machines where they have a kind of a smoky wind that passes over it, and you can see the wind pass up the sides of the car and around the sides of the car, but it's almost as though it doesn't directly hit the car. And that's the same energy of the magnetic radiation of the sun. As it goes over the Earth, it kind of passes over. It's called radiation wind. It passes over the Earth, and the combination of the electric forces and the magnetic forces create a certain energy that allows the earth to continue to spin, that allows the certain energies and even what helps continue life here on earth. So and this particular energy, this electric energy, is the Wadjet energy. So she's represented out in the cosmos through the very creation of Earth itself, as well as being part of our own physical structure and what allows us to continue as who we are as human entities. When we go into actual Earth and we talk about the cycle of Wadjet begins on December 25th. And this is why this has been a really relevant time period right now to actually bring her up, because her birthday is coming up. My birthday was yesterday, and just over a week, so 8 days after my birthday is the birthday of the deity who chose me to represent her, to be a portal and a channel for her here on Earth. And she let it be known to me within the last few days that it was absolutely time to open that portal to manifest her in a bigger way back into this reality. So this is the beginning of that, of me serving her in that way, so that we can serve ourselves, so that we can remember our own divinity and remember our most ancient practices before we even had, when we had the most very basic cultures set up, the very most basic civilization. She was already a part of what we understood to be the foundation of our humanity. So this is incredibly important. So when we talk about these cycles of birth and rebirth, and just to give an example, because normally I don't even like to, there are many people in our community who love to beat down Christianity and love to beat down other religions and things like this, and I don't see any purpose in even bringing them up, because to the extent that we continue to beat on these things, we're still giving our attention and our focus there to those things, to those other religions, these false religions. And really what we need to do is focus on just the truth, finding the truth and speaking the truth and living the truth. When you start to live the truth, it becomes less and less necessary to bang on other people for what they believe in, because if you're living the truth, you have an experiential awareness that what you live is true and real, and what is true and real for you, that's somebody else. That's why in ancient Kemet, there were so many different deities, so many different expressions of the one divine, so many different expressions, and people were able to tap into whatever expression of the divine suited their incarnation purpose at that time. So it's okay to be a devotee of Heteru and to live your life and find your purpose and everything centered around her, whereas somebody else might find their purpose around Jehuti and live. And so there was no battle. Oh no, Jehuti is the real God. No, Heteru is the real God. There was no battle like that, because all of this is understood to be manifestations of the original point of existence, the original point of awakening of the Creator itself. So there's no battle, because all of these things are the same thing. There's no vying for who's going to be on top or anything like that. For those who understand, these are all expressions of divinity. So you choose your expression of divinity based on what you understand to be your true self, your true nature, and your purpose and your destiny here on Earth at this time. And once that's chosen, you know yourself, and you don't need to destroy anybody or tear anybody down for what they believe in. Now, having said that, I don't believe in actively going out to try to beat other people down for what they believe in, but also we do believe in representing what is true and bringing what is true. And so sometimes as a comparative function, we can speak about other religions or other beliefs and what they have, and compare that to some kind of ancient science that we have. For example, that we have our ancient African science. So December 25th, this is a great big point of contention here, because in modern reality, December 25th is supposed to be the birth of a person, of a man who is born of a woman who God forced himself on and had sex with and made a child with. And this child is here in order to erase the sins that mankind had because they didn't understand their true nature or something to that effect. Now, and then this December 25th is supposed to represent the date of birth of this person who arrived here on Earth and who was supposed to be here to basically die as a human sacrifice in order to erase all of mankind's sin. And so we can look at the fallacy of that story, because so far the sinning keeps happening. So it doesn't seem like the human sacrifice really worked out, the plan really worked out in the manner that it was intended, because the people before the Christ person was supposed to have existed, we're not even sure what's supposed to happen to them, if they're supposed to, be burned in hell forever by default because they weren't here in time, or if the people who came afterward, what's supposed to be happening with them, because they don't have any, there hasn't been a change, there hasn't been a shift in the reality. In fact, everything is still going downhill, downhill, downhill. So just based on the fruits of what that whole story is supposed to have brought forth, it's not matching up with what the reality is of what we're seeing around us. So we're not seeing that the birth of this particular Savior being has actually made any effect on Earth and on the people of Earth. So anyhow, then if we go back to the story of Wadjet, for example, we can find some kind of basis in nature and in the cycle, so we can find a correlation. And this is one of the things that's important to do in science as well. You look for correlations between events, between the stories that are told, and between real events and real experiences, and you see whether they match up. So we're saying that the December 25th story doesn't really seem to match up with this Savior person who's a human sacrifice to erase people's negative nature. But then if we go to the worship of Wadjet, her cycle begins. She is reborn on December 25th, or her new cycle begins that day. And on December 25th is the 5th day after the winter solstice. So the winter solstice is the time when the sun, in the Earth cycle, it's the time when the sun is at its lowest point. It's at its farthest point away from the Earth. And we are there, and that's the northern hemisphere, of course, we're talking about, because it's summertime. But the Earth itself is still farthest away from they are the farthest apart from each other at that point. And on the 5th day, so we have the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th. And coincidentally, inside the human body, the Wadjet energy, which is also called Kundalini, is stored in the coccyx bone, which is the tiniest, bottommost tailbone of the spine. So in that very little miniature bone at the bottom there. And this is called, in the Book of Gates, this is called the alabaster sarcophagus. Alabaster means white. So in the sarcophagus is it's a place where somebody who's sleeping or dead or sleeping is stored. So the alabaster sarcophagus is the name of the tiny tailbone, the very last bone. And then up 5 of these bones, just like there are 5 days from the solstice, at the 5th one, that's when the Kundalini energy, the Wadjet energy, awakens and begins to actively move itself. So it's awakened in that tiny bone, and then it moves quietly up and is really awakened once it hits that 5th bone and starts to emit power throughout the whole physical body. So once it's past that 5th point, and in the same way, in the Earth cycle, the Wadjet energy, after that 5th day after the solstice, when the sun reaches its farthest and lowest point, then it begins to manifest light and heat and spread that light and heat back across the world, and it continues to rise and rise. And as it goes up, of course, it spreads more heat, more warmth. The plants begin to grow. Spring comes, summer comes, and all of these things happen because the Earth and the sun are in a cycle together, where the sun is expanding itself, where it's rising constantly. So it rises to this point in the sky, in the middle of the sky, until it reaches its climax on June 21st, which is the summer solstice. And in the human body, the Wadjet energy rises and it circles itself up the spine. And as it rises up, it also emits an energy that goes out through the whole entire body. So it emits an energy that goes through the pelvis region. It emits energy that goes through the kidneys. It goes farther up the spine and emits energy into the heart. It goes farther up the spine, emits energy into the lungs, into the shoulders, into the muscles of the back, into the neck. And then it rises up, it emits energy into the brainstem, which contains all the endocrine glands, the hypothalamus, and these organs which emit hormones that actually have a huge influence over our body, actually having a very serious and very intricate influence over the whole entire human body and all of our human functions. And when it rises up past that to its crown is when it arrives at what on the Earth cycle is the point of the June 21st. So it's at the highest point in the sky. So the Wadjet reaches its highest point just above our head. So what appears to those who can see as the crown chakra, the light that shines right above the head, this is the point where the individual Wadjet energy, the individual's Wadjet power has risen so high that it's actually able to connect with the Ka. And the Ka is our deity. Each of us have a deity that's assigned to us. And deity is an ancestor, is a being from the other side who is assigned to us to guide us through our lives. And it's a divinely oriented energy. And by us connecting with our Ka, we get the focus that we need in order to live our divinity. So this deity is watching out for us. They're guiding us, reminding us. They serve us through dreams. They guide us. They will shift opportunities and things to make the right moves happen so that we can fully live our destiny. But in order for them to do that, we have to invite them in, and we have to be aware of them. We have to, again, have an experiential awareness of them so that we are connected fully to them so that they can guide us. So it's the same as like when a child is sent across the street when they're little, they hold mom's hand, and then mom presses a button for the light, looks at the street both ways, decides when the traffic is safe for the child to be able to cross the road, holds their hand and guides them across at the safest point in the road for them to get across to the other side. And this is the same function that our Ka has in guiding us to our destiny. So it's going to find the safest point where we're not going to get hit by a car, where we're not going to get destroyed by other things around us. It's going to guide us and push buttons and shift energies in order to give us the ability to cross ourselves into that space of arriving at our purpose and our destiny. And so that can be the Wadjet energy. As the Wadjet energy reaches up, and that point in the crown, what we see is the crown chakra. This is the point where the above our heads there, and so it's emitting an energy. And when our Wadjet energy reaches up and touches that, it's the same way if you ever look when you go to plug in something, or when you pull a plug out, and you can see an arc of electricity jump between the thing that you've unplugged and between the source of the electricity. So when you can see that sometimes, there's a little spark. And the same spark that you're seeing there, so there's the source of the electricity in the wall, which is what the Ka is to us. It's the source of electricity. It's originated from the divine, and it emanates divine energy downward into us. And we are the object that is getting plugged in. So when we plug ourselves in, we're connected to that energy, and we draw that energy down into us, and it helps us and guides us. There, that spark is the exact same spark that creates what we visualize, that we're able to see as the crown chakra. So this light source here, that's what that is. And this is only visible in people who are connected to their Ka. So sometimes people will assume or say, and people can see their auras when we talk about chakras. These are the energy points and the energy centers. But if a person is connected to their Ka, this energy center is bright and powerful and light. And through many times in history, there have been writings and explanations of people who are able to see this. So, for example, when people talk about seeing the halo of an angel, this is actually a person who is connected with their Ka, and they're able to see that the light around them. It looks like a glow around their head because they are fully connected with their divinity. And so a lot of these things that we throw away because a lot of them have either Christian orientations or come directly from Christian stories, we throw them away and say, oh, there's no such thing as a halo, there's no such thing as light, and that's actually completely false. So we recognize electricity when it's coming out of a plug in the wall, but yet we're skeptical when we're talking about our actual divinity and the beings that we are. we're living, moving beings, so we were creating electricity at all times. So if we're going to give inanimate objects we're going to be aware that inanimate objects have electricity. We have to fully be in full understanding that we, as living, functioning, conscious, moving beings, are also emitting and receiving electricity. And that's what the Wadjet energy is, that electricity. So going back to the earth cycle with the Wadjet, when the Wadjet energy reaches up to the crown of the head, he moves down the front of the body. So in the same way that the energy goes forward for the earth cycles, and after June 21st, after that highest point of summer, so it lowers back down and becomes winter again. And during that whole time, from the highest point of summer until it's winter again, that's the time when there are different harvest cycles going on, different cycles of peace and relaxation. So as the Wadjet energy moves down the front of the body, it moves down past the face, past the eyes, and when it passes these points is when we have, this is the same thing like in the summertime when it's the brightest, it's the lightest at night. We can take longer journeys because we're able to see for more time because the night goes on, the night is shorter. And then the Wadjet energy continues to move downward past, and the heart is this time of the summer, this kind of openness and joy that people experience because everything is comfortable. Their needs are met. They're not fighting or shivering against the cold. They don't have to fight the elements with their physical form. And so naturally the body is more open and more experientially connected to the world around it and to others around. We wear less clothing, so we're more into each other's energy field and energy space. It's more likely to be able to touch somebody else's skin, or whether it's visually or through contact. And so there's some more of a closeness and a connection and an openness during that season. And so in the same way in the body, the heart reaches that point, and the heart is open then when the Wadjet energy is moving there. And then we move towards fall, and the Wadjet energy also is moving down towards the abdomen. So it's moving down towards the stomach, down towards all the digestive organs. And during this time, the energy is fully connected to harvest. Same time when the sun moves into that place where the things that have been planted have grown, they've blossomed, they've developed fruit, and they're ready to let go of their fruit and to bear that fruit so that people are able to eat. This is the same time when our Wadjet energy moves down the front of the body to the digestion. We are able to store the food that's inside of us. We're able to hold on to more. The body goes into a season of holding on because the body knows that the winter cycle is coming. So our human bodies naturally go into they begin to hold on to the calories, they hold on to the food, they hold on to everything that's there, rather than in the highest of summer where, you eat something and the digestion just kind of, eats it and moves it on, eats it and moves it on, and the body changes and shifts during that time. So this is the harvest season of the Wadjet when it moves downward to the front of the body. And then again, right at the close of the season, so there's a part of the season where there's kind of this festival of light, and it cultures all over the world. Right before the darkest days of winter, there are those festivals of light where the energy moves so that they light up the place with, colorful candles. They put, obviously in the, Western, there's a Christmas holiday where people put up lights all over the place and different things like that. But there's Diwali in India. There are different festivals like the lantern festivals and all these sorts of things. So right at the point where these festivals of light happen are also the same places where as the Wadjet energy is moving downward, this is the energy that's at the second chakra, at the sexual energy area. So these lights city and this twinkling that's going on, and this is the same electric energy that we have when we're able to connect with others. And then finally, in the darkest of winter, the Wadjet power goes back down and it returns to be stored in the alabaster sarcophagus. It goes back to be stored in the base of the spine. And this is one complete cycle of the Wadjet energy as it rises and ebbs through the body, and also the same of the Wadjet cycle as it rises and it ebbs through the human form. So it goes through the earth in the same way as it goes through us. So again, we have to, the only way to truly understand this, I mean, we can hear this and it can make sense to us and we can see that it's true. Wadjet Yoga is about developing an experience of this. So when you begin to use your physical form, you begin to tune in, to tap into your physical form, and you understand that this will allow you to actually feel the energy rise up. You can feel energy moving up your spine. You can, when you become sensitive to it, you can feel whether the energy is moving up slowly, quickly. You can feel whether it's moving up kind of with tingling or prickling. You can feel whether it's moving flowing, slow, kind of like honey or syrup. And you can also feel when it arrives at certain different points where it will pause and rest. So when you develop an experiential awareness of the movement of your own divine energy flowing through your body, this automatically, because it is fully in tune with the cycles of the earth, will remind you of the earth cycles. You don't even have a choice to not be tuned in fully to the earth cycles because you are moving with the earth cycle. And this is so important it is for us to stop just talking about our reality and stop talking about our culture and to actually truly live it and experience it. Because we say, and I hear constantly people talk about how we're God, and it's just words. This is just words. Unless you're living that experience of that phrase, then they're just words. If you don't have a sense of where your own power is in your body at any given moment, of where the power is resting or where it's moving, where it's blocked and where it needs to flow, then you can't manifest that power into the reality around you. And if you can't manifest power into your existence, into the world around you, then you can't grow and change and affect change for others. You will essentially just be stuck. You have to rely on using secondhand knowledge. You have to rely on other people's experience of awareness and reality. And somewhere, some tiny piece of your being that's still awake, somewhere in your gut or somewhere in your heart, where you feel, oh, okay, you know what, this person is right. What this person is saying really resonates with me. And that tiny piece of you that's still living, still awake, is at least aware of the truth when you hear it, but it's not a part of your own experiential existence. To be fully African, we have to fully be existing in our divinity. Until you live and exist in your divinity, you cannot fully call yourself completely reconnected with your culture. I don't care how much of a black nationalist you are, how much you shout black power and wear gigantic medallions and dashikis, how many rallies you've been to, or how long you've been reading books by authors who speak about our power and our reconnection and our rise of our culture. It doesn't. You could do that for 50 years and still not be fully African because you have not connected to your divinity, which is what is the essence of what makes an African being. An African being is one who arrived here, who were the first people on earth, and arrived and manifested and sprung up from that earth, that connection to the earth. So we were fully connected to it at one time. We are still fully connected to it, but we live through our perception rather than living through our being, our whole being. When they talk about we only use 10% of our brain, and people think that that's such a tragedy that we're using 10% of our brain, but we're actually using less than 10% of our being. We don't even use our being. Forget about the brain. No, people aren't fully actualizing their kidneys. People aren't fully living out of their liver. People aren't fully actualizing the power of their lungs. We're not living out of any of our organs to their maximum. We don't even know who we are because we don't have a full experiential beingness out of any part of our entire temple. And we have to develop and open those channels back up, because the true full bond of our divinity lies there. And it's interesting, because there was something that I saw the other day speaking about marriage and how in ancient times, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, those are still, I guess, laws or something that is still on the books, but a marriage is not considered real until it's been consummated. So two people can go stand before a priest or judge and say, I do, and vow to be married, until they physically lie together as man and woman. They are not considered to be a married couple. And in the same sense, no matter how much you call yourself African, no matter how much you display the outward trappings of being connected to your culture, unless you are connected to the divinity that is the origin of your culture, you're not there. So you are not consummated. You are not fully consummated as an African until you have made the physical connection to your own divinity. So we need to change up the diet and clean ourselves up. And some people, that's been a huge move in our community for people to, a lot of people now have created a whole separate cult and separate obsession with constantly cleansing and changing the nature of their body. And that's important. We have to remember also with that to use balance. We have to remember that what we do in all ways is always in need of balance. So we can't get to the point where we are cleansing ourselves so often that we're making ourselves sick, or that we're not giving ourselves the level of nutrition that we actually need. But again, we still need to remember to change up our diet, to clean ourselves out, because everywhere that we are blocked up and plugged up are places where electricity cannot arrive to us. When you go to an electric outlet and then one of those little plastic thingies are in there that helps children not to stick a fork in there and get electrocuted, we have those kind of blocks all over our body. We create those blocks with our thoughts. We create those blocks from physical injuries that we sustain by not being, fully present and fully aware of our surroundings in order to avoid accident situations. And we have those things through our diet. So those are three things we need to really clean up so that we can actually so that our body can belong to us again. And again, so the Wadjet Yoga is designed to clean out the body, to open up spaces and centers that have been blocked and shut down for a long time. It's common to experience, tingling and sensations of movement and energy flowing through places that we forgot were even there, because we have shut ourselves down to that less than 10% of all these different part cells. If we use less than 10% of our brain, we're only using 10% of our nerve endings, 10% of our heart energy, 10% of our muscular capabilities, 10% of what our skin is functioning for, of picking up vitamin D or these sort of things. So all of the capacities, don't just think about the brain and the 10%, think about the whole entire body and reconnect with all those parts. Reconnect with everything that we have so that we can fully actualize, so that we can consummate our relationship with being African. This is the goal and the focus of everything. When I was training in yoga, when I was certifying to be yoga, I certified as a Kundalini yoga teacher. And during my entire process of going through the certification, which was an excellent, amazing, incredible experience, during that whole process, I would constantly have experiences of Haru, experiences of Offset, experiences of Het Haru. I would have different energies coming to me at different times. And so I wanted so much to understand what was the connection of what they were doing and being. Why were they coming to me in those particular moments? And all of the system that I created is all based on a need to know, a need to understand what it was I was experiencing through those awakenings. So when I was awakening more than 10% of my brain, and awakening more than 10% of my muscles, and more than 10% of my nerve endings, and more than 10% of my liver, I also was wondering what exactly was happening to me. And when I asked those questions, of course, always, when you ask the ancestors questions, when you ask any of the divine, when you ask them something, they will find a way to make an answer for you. They always find a way. So they gave me constant experiential, they gave me constant experiences of them. They gave me visions, dreams. I would have visions sitting and looking out at the water and see them reflected in the water. I had all sorts of imaginings, and I would ask, what are you saying to me? What are you here to be? Who am I to be? What do you want me to be for you? And those aren't necessarily verbal questions were being asked, but there was an openness as I was going through this. It was almost a lot of it was a non-conscious process. So it wasn't even always, so it was my response, the response of my being to what I was going through physically. Going through the training and becoming a Wadjet yogi changed me experientially, it changed me physically, it changed my brain, it changed all of my being. And with the new being that I developed with that, the new being had more questions and had more answers. Answers would come to me through my body itself. So I would ask a question, and then right through my cells directly or through my organs directly, answers would come through. And again, opening up these blockages is something that creates the opportunity for that to happen. So let's see, I want to double check the chat room here and see whether we have any questions. Okay. All right, so we've just got about 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to kind of wrap everything up there. And I just want to thank you all for listening. Thank everybody who did dial in to listen and everybody who joined through the chat room. I hope that this is a dialogue that we can open up farther because it is my goal and my mission for us to all develop a practice to consummate our relationship with divinity, to consummate our relationship with our own Africanness. And everything that I do, all of the work that I create, is specifically with that goal in mind. We need to come to be the things that we keep talking about. When I hear people arguing back and forth and saying this belief or that belief, or arguing this fact or that fact, or trying to pull information from Wikipedia in order to make a point, all those things say to me is that these people have no experiential awareness of what they're actually saying, and they're still relying on secondhand divinity. They're still relying on external saviors, because as long as you rely on a book to tell you what you're supposed to do, be, or feel, or think the divine, then you are using an external savior. You're waiting on an external savior to fix you. And so there's nobody, and I hear loads of people, again, with the whole, banging on the Christianity. Most of the people who I hear banging on Christianity and on other people who are still connected to Christianity are still using Christian methods. They've renamed their new methods. They've basically put an African face on their same old methods, and they're using the same methods to say, I'm something else now, but still looking for that external savior, whether it's through alkaline food, whether it's through a master teacher, or whatever it is. And we need to stop that. That's not our culture.